Welcome to Faith Alive in 5, the 5-minute gospel. Now here's your host, Dr. Faye.
We've talked about David, the psalmist, the prophet, the preacher, the teacher, the king, and how it took 15 years from the moment the oil was poured on his head by the prophet Samuel until the crown was placed on his head. There are spaces of time that we cannot explain. The moment God spoke to our hearts and the moment it manifests. It is up to us to not waver from the call, not waver from the mission, not waver from the plan of God. And the only way we can not waver is to keep our eyes on Him and to understand that it is indeed a process. The oil doesn't start out being the oil. The oil starts out being a seed for the olives to grow. The wine starts out being a seed for the grapes to grow. I live in farming community. We're Aryan farming community. And let me tell you something. Everything starts with a seed. It has a beginning. You cannot abort it when it's just coming through the soil. You have to nurture it, water it, tend to it in order to see the end results. God sees the end from the beginning. So He already knew David was going to be a king when he was born. Just like He told Jeremiah, before you were formed in your mother's belly, I knew you. Before you came forth out of her womb, I ordained you. God already knows your outcome. And what He does is graces us with an opportunity for us to learn how to grow up in that calling, grow up in that mission, grow up in that business, in that entrepreneur endeavor, grow up in that thing, whatever it may be for you. So don't abort the growing up process. Don't abort the growing up timing, because that is extremely important. We must learn how to do the things we've been called to do. The Bible speaks of Jesus and said, though He were a son, yet learned He obedience by the things which He suffered. So Jesus went through some growing up periods. We see Him at the age of 12. We see Him at birth in the manger, and we see Him from there and have Joseph having to hide Him for the sake of saving Him. And then we see Him again at the age of 12 in the temple reasoning with the elders. And when Mary and the relatives found Him, and she said, we were worried out of our minds for 2 days. We were searching for you. You were nowhere to be found. And he just said, what? Didn't you not know that I would be about my Father's business? Wow, He was already teaching and reasoning with them at the age of 12. But we don't see Him fulfilling His mission until at the age of 30. 18 years of Him going into to school, going into the rabbi school, going into learning how to be and do what God sent Him to be and do. And we think, He was the Son of God. He knew everything. But the Bible didn't say that. He knew who He was. And that's a big difference. He knew who He was. When you know who you are, you will begin to hone your skills toward that. Peter knew he was a fisherman. He knew his brothers were fishermen, and they had to learn how to fish. Joseph was a carpenter. I can imagine for those 18 years, along with him learning how to be a rabbi, he also learned how to build things with his hands. I believe that as he became a master teacher, he was also becoming a master carpenter. Yes, I believe that Jesus was in all points tempted like we are, as the Bible said, but yet without sin, because there was an in the meantime place. There was an 18-year place. There was a 15-year for David, an 18-year for Jesus. And we'll see through this series that time made a difference. The process made a difference, and it brought out the thing that God has placed in them for the time that was appointed.
Thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. Dr. Faye would love hearing from you. Contact her today at 870-860-9758 or email coach@drfaye.com. And remember, the calling is a gift, but the choice is yours.